If you look back in time from 1980s to 2000, that's what we like to kind of call like the analog era. So how did consumers actually get listing information? And they had a thing called the MLS book. This was a physical copy that was printed every single week where agents contributed listing inventory. So agents essentially were the gatekeeper of the data. There's a lot of value there. Fast forward to kind of where we are here right now. That's the digital, that's the information era. The Zillows, the Trulias, the Redfins, the Realtors of the world. They innovated in a good way where they created transparency for everybody essentially in the world. Any given day, humans make 35,000 decisions. If 7 billion, 8 billion people are making 35,000 decisions, how can we create ways with an AI assistant to make half of those decisions on our behalf that may not be consequential and or can be automated? Not to reduce our decisions to 17.5, it's to really focus our 35,000 decisions on something more creative.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today, I am joined by Will Grewal, the founder of HomeStack, a platform that many real estate agents in the industry know. It is totally revolutionizing the way that we buy and sell homes. And Will has really been on the forefront of blending technology with real estate, creating a streamlined experience that benefits buyers, sellers, and agents, of course. You've developed over 5,000 apps in the App Store, over 40,000 agents on the platform, and scaling like crazy, Will. And I'm just excited for you to be here, excited to have a great conversation and provide a ton of value to everybody watching.
I'm fired up to be here, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's dive right into, HomeStack, right? Yeah. Obviously, I own one of the largest, if not the largest, retail real estate team in the nation, and we love HomeStack. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to Keith literally right before you walked in, and I was like, give me some stat, right? Give me a piece of data. He's like, we've doubled our metric on, let's say, client retention on them coming back ever since we, brought back HomeStack. And so, and we're just getting warmed up. So let's go back. Like, why did you start HomeStack? Like, where did the idea come from?
Yeah. So funny enough, the origin actually kind of started here in the Valley of the Sun. I grew up in Los Angeles, went to Arizona State for 4 years, studied business, computer information systems, entrepreneurship. And my random college roommate at ASU was my co-founder and business partner.
Wow.
Steve Jobs, big influence. 2007, the iPhone was announced. 2008, the Apple App Store was announced. And at the time, it seemed so obvious that the App Store was just going to have this abundance of opportunity in regards to just being a marketplace for distribution, that I wanted to dive in deep, innovate with mobile, thinking that it was going to be the primary interface in which we operate moving forward.
Wow. But why the real estate industry? Why, out of all the apps that you could have developed, out of all of the problems that you could have solved, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have invented a game on the App Store.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, what is it? Angry Birds. So why real estate? Why the industry and the niche that you chose to run with?
So it took a little time for us to get there. We started with kind of like restaurant point of sale solutions, which I thought was really, really powerful. We built custom apps for residential, real estate brokerages. We kind of dabbled kind of across kind of the spectrum. My co-founder, third generation real estate agent, dad owns a very large and successful real estate brokerage. Mm-hmm. So I think one of like the core tenets of entrepreneurship is having a strong domain. And we knew real estate like the back of our hand. We were walking into the real estate brokerage offices and seeing how they were kind of conducting business. They were faxing listings. And in my opinion, that was like using Spotify and sharing a playlist through fax. So we wanted to find a way to, 1, focus on branding, 2, differentiation, 3, streamline communication collaboration, 4, accelerate the process from discovery to close. So I'd say really it's just a strong domain of expertise in realizing that the overall residential real estate space, extremely fragmented, prime for disruption.
Totally. And what year would that have been where you went into the real estate offices and you noticed that they're still faxing their listings? Do you remember?
2012, 2013.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was always kind of
years ago.
Yeah, it was always kind of a step behind the rest of the world, right? I always thought that it was maybe 24 to 36 months behind the rest of the world in which it operated.
It really is. I completely agree. You know, when you look at the stock market, you look at really any other sector of the market, right? And the advancements with technology and AI and integration and, you know, all of that, real estate has always lagged. Like it's always behind. You know, it's like there's still a lot of aspects of real estate that are really broken, like you said, fragmented, and not efficient at all, you know? So let's talk about kind of the evolution, right? Of, okay, you know, you walk into these different, you know, brokerages, you're like, what the heck is wrong with this industry, right? You know, what's the timetable? How long until you like dive in head first, you start building the app, you get it going, you get your first 100 customers? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, where we are today is completely different than where we were day one. And there's been a lot of evolution from that process. I say the first 100 customers was the hardest way possible that you can imagine. I mean, we are walking in hand-to-hand combat. Yeah. I had a BlackBerry at the time, believe it or not, which is kind of embarrassing to admit.
I had a Sidekick probably.
But it was so early when iOS and Apple actually only released with AT&T. I don't know if you remember that. And I was a Verizon customer at the time. Yeah. And so it was really selling the dream. And I think it was conviction, relentless behavior, but building out a vision to put our potential clients in the shoes of what success looks like.
Yeah.
And that was just through wireframes. It was through design. So believe it or not, when we first started, we didn't even have a prototype. It was a slide deck. And we kind of did what Elon did with Cybertruck 10 years ago. And we actually took on pre-orders.
Wow.
So our first 100 customers subscribed as a pre-order, essentially kickstarting and funding our venture in order to bring our dream into a reality.
Pretty crazy. What was that initial problem that you were solving? And then how did it evolve into what it is today? Like, what was the app all about and the experience? Like, what were you going for then compared to what are you going for now?
So initially, it was a branding play. And I think like my theory and my thesis on the Apple App Store at the time was that it was going to cannibalize and replace Google search. So if you kind of look at how SEO indexes and if you look at kind of how domain authority existed back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you would have websites, www.scottsdalerealestate.com, www.paradisevalleyrealestate.com. And there was a huge branding play specifically on the lead gen side. So I looked at this marketplace, you know, the Apple App Store and Google Play Store, and my initial bet was that the App Store was going to replace search and that agents had an opportunity to brand themselves in a unique way as a first mover advantage and essentially claim these domains. The difference in the app world versus say, you know, the .com world is you can have a website, you can have 10 websites and you can point it to one address. In regards to the App Store, every single app needs the software to be individually coded, developed, maintained, distributed, and approved by the App Store. You can't essentially create 10 apps to live into one. So like the initial thesis was a big bet on the App Store taking over the branding element and generating organic leads through app name.
Wow. And how different or similar was the reality in which it became compared to what you initially predicted?
So I think one of the benefits of bootstrapping and kind of working with, say, your first 100 customers is you are right there by their side the whole way.
Yeah.
1, what problem can I solve? 2, how can we demonstrate value? 3, where are your challenges? 4, how can we relinquish those challenges and demonstrate growth? So like we had that real-time feedback loop constantly. And so on one end, like we inadvertently like scored where agents who were first movers and they built kind of an app name, they were doing really cool things, making it their primary call to action. So instead of call me, text me, email me, go to the App Store, download, you know, Phoenix Homes for Sale. And they were able to kind of brand themselves agnostically around kind of a premier home searching tool that was local. The reality though is people realize that real estate is still kind of a flesh pressing flesh business. They want to maintain that relationship and they want to kind of be at the forefront. And so we kind of moved our way from like top of funnel lead gen and really wanted to dominate search, middle of the funnel, essentially layering on a Pinterest-like experience that allows people to find a listing, favorite a listing, schedule a tour, show up, put an offer in, convert, flywheel.
Right, totally. So really the HomeStack, everything that you guys are doing now, correct me if I'm wrong, is for the agent, right? I mean, ultimately it's for everybody, of course, right? Obviously, if the agent is on their A game, then the client, the customer is going to have a better experience, and the title reps get, like, of course it affects everybody, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, is the main goal to serve that real estate agent and help that real estate agent do more deals, retain more clients, keep their clients coming back for more, et cetera, or would you say that's an inaccurate assumption?
You nailed it. I think we're actually in a really unique position that a lot of people in a lot of companies aren't. Specifically in SaaS, you're either B2B or you're B2C.
Right.
I like to say we're B2B to C because in reality,
That's true though.
we need to deliver a world-class experience in which the agents then distribute to the masses. And so we need to take into account multiple stakeholders.
Yeah.
One, the agent utility of it. How does the back end work? How do I share it? How do I connect? How do I collab? How do I differentiate?
Right.
Two, is there value on the other end when the consumers are downloading, creating a frictionless experience, being able to connect, collaborate, go through the entire value chain of residential real estate.
And how do you compete, would you say, like with a Zillow, a Realtor.com, a Redfin, right? Like there's so many search engines now in 2025. There's so many different ways that a consumer can find a listing, right? And so now I'm a big fan of HomeStack. I've used it. We have our own app, obviously, right? Quite a few of them. And I love the functionality of it, right? Like it was actually one of the first apps that I ever downloaded or that we ever had created for us that I remember using it and I was like, this is as good as Zillow. Like it's good, right? Like it's really good. So how does that, do you see those people as competition, or are they not really competition because you're solving a different problem?
Indirect competition for sure.
Okay.
And, if we want to kind of talk about like the evolution of like where we are today versus like where it came back from, I think if you look back in time, we'll go to like from 1980s to 2000.
Yep.
That's what we like to kind of call like the analog era. So how did consumers actually get listing information? And they had a thing called the MLS book. Right. I'm not sure if you remember the MLS book.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
This was a physical copy that was printed every single week where agents contributed listing inventory and people would collaborate with a highlighter and figure out what was the sweet spot for you. So agents essentially were the gatekeeper of the data. There was a lot of value there. Fast forward to early 2000s to kind of where we are here right now. That's the digital, that's the information era. And to your point, the portals, the Zillows, the Trulias, the Redfins, the Realtors of the world, tons of inspiration.
Yeah.
They innovated in a good way where they created transparency for everybody essentially in the world. I have a ton of admiration for Spencer, for Rich, for Glenn at Redfin, Pete at Trulia, because what they did was they invented an experience that put the consumer first, made things one touch away. Mapping technology now existed. Notification technology now existed. To kind of weave this into kind of your question, where do we fit kind of within like the competitive landscape? In my opinion, servicing the customer is the utmost, most important part of being a real estate agent. And when you use these portals, I think we're at an advantage because we can garner inspiration on what they do right, but we can also lean into certain challenges that may exist when you are on these portals.
Sure.
For example, we all have seen kind of the horror story of people using Zillow. Data may have sold 1 day, 2 weeks, 2 months ago.
Yep.
They contact you. What's that experience for you and your consumer?
Right. Not great.
Discouraged buyer. They lose hope. But at the end of the day, I think this is what they're trying to do. They're an ad play.
Sure.
They're trying to garner eyeballs. They're trying to generate more leads. That's kind of where their money printing machine is. Unique views, contacts, etc.
Yeah.
What we want to solve is like data is a core pillar here at HomeStack. Like obviously 100% accurate, direct from the MLS. 2, we want to create more of an integrated experience where you can showcase vendors, make them just one touch away. Because at the end of the day, there's more than just buying and selling.
Totally.
There's servicing, there's home ownership. And then 3, kind of create certain magic moments within the technology that makes it fun, addicting, creating an experience for people to come back. So I think solving it with data, branding, collaborative, and always just being one touch away has kind of been our value chain.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced as you scaled. You know, you talked about getting to that first 100 customers was the hardest thing that you had to do, right? What were some other major challenges that you had to overcome to get it to where it is today?
Yeah, so I'd say like the early days, it was kind of like a drunken walk, right? You're kind of going in one direction, you're seeing a little bit of success, you get knocked on your butt, you pop back up, you go into another direction. Just kind of for like the listeners at home, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to syndicating a national search platform is independently bringing on each MLS board. And when we started the company, there was over 900 MLSs.
Right.
Each MLS operates independently, governed with their own set of rules.
Yeah.
It's somewhat the wild, wild west. The analogy that I like to create is if you ever played the board game Risk, it's kind of like Risk, where you're trying to kind of like own, maintain.
Totally.
And so really every set of data that we got was extremely fragmented. We had to, clean, sanitize, index it, create our own database. And so like we deployed a strategy where it was more, land and expand rather than going after every single MLS at first due to a lot of the hurdles. So I'd say like initially the scale, we wanted to target the biggest MLSs. Southern California, Texas, Florida, own those 3 states, anything is possible. So I'd say like initial scale was obviously kind of the MLS data, which I'm sure, you're very privy to.
Yeah.
Team. I mean, we saw this opportunity as a big blue ocean.
Right.
What do you need to do when you have a big blue ocean? Bring in a lot of good fishermen.
Yep.
And I would say one of my earliest challenges was, I always believe in second chances, third chances, betting on people. And it was a hard thing to accept, but firing employees was an early challenge in giving people a very, very long leash when I think the biggest constraint in entrepreneurship and technology is time. Giving too much time was one of the biggest challenges that I faced.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that, right? Like they're either on one side or the other of the pendulum, like they either fire too fast, they're too hard on people, they're too whatever, or they don't fire nearly fast enough. They give people too much leeway. They let people essentially that shouldn't have been there destroy their culture. One bad apple, right? And I totally agree. At what point did you recognize that and kind of look at it and say, okay, I've got to really make sure that I have the right culture, the right team, the right people in the right seat. Sometimes that's a problem too. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is you've got an amazing employee, but they're in the wrong box.
Right.
Like I've done that many times as an entrepreneur, right? Where I've got this amazing person and I hire them over here and then they're wearing a bunch of hats or whatever. And then eventually I move them over here and 6 months go by and you're like, man, are they really in the right seat? Or should they be somewhere else? Like, have you experienced a decent amount of that?
It's funny you bring that up. So I was meeting with my mentor and we were watching a baseball game and we were kind of just talking about the overall experience. And, if you follow baseball, there's kind of an idea of leaving a pitcher in too long. And, I was kind of going over some of our growing pains and so forth. And he kind of created the analogy. You got to pull the pitcher when you know that they are baked. We built a team kind of at HomeStack, affectionately known as the Stack Pack. We love them. We're kind of like the Ocean's 11, where you kind of have, 11 specialists. We've grown since then. We're not robbing a bank. We're just innovating the world of real estate tech. But one of the things that we have noticed is it's like good people do exist. So that's like a core value at HomeStack. Empowerment, own your role. But a perfect example is, our director of client experience, 5 years at Zillow, shout out Evie, she's phenomenal, started in sales. You can really tell her heart and her beat and her drum was marching towards marketing and client experience. So I think when you are a smaller startup, you kind of have the agility where people do wear multiple hats and you can just kind of identify where is that spark? Where is she glowing? Where are they driving value? And that's kind of our job as leaders to be able to put people in a position to succeed.
I love that actually. Yeah, I love you put it very in a very good kind of well-crafted way of like when you are nimble and small and agile, right? A lot of people, like for any entrepreneur listening, right? When you're smaller, you know, you're not big enough to be able to afford one person for one specific thing. Typically you have like your admin also doing like this, that, and the other thing, right? Because you can't afford to hire 4 different people. So you make one person do 4 different jobs until you can afford to kind of go above and beyond. So I love the identifying of that as a leader. I think it's extremely important. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you've bootstrapped the entire company, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, especially in the SaaS industry, tech industry, stuff like that, they choose to go venture capital. They choose to go, you know, you see it all the time. I mean, we've all seen, you know, the Uber, you know, TV show even, right? And all of the different movies and documentaries that have come out. You bootstrapped. Till literally we're sitting here today, you're still bootstrapping it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
And why? You know, why do that? Why not go raise capital? Why not go take, I don't want to call it the easy route because I'm sure there's a lot of difficulty with that too, but why not go a different route?
Yeah. Nothing in this world is easy.
No.
Everything needs to be earned. Everything needs to be worked for. And it's funny, you bring up Uber, Travis, you know, phenomenal founder, and you kind of see the story, you saw the show, Super Pumped and so forth. It was controversial at the time. And when you do bootstrap a company, I will say it was a feature, not a bug, and it was 100% by design. Fundraising, full-time job. You know, I had tons of friends, tons of mentors, tons of individuals who I looked up to, where it seemed like at the time, you know, reverse the clock about a decade.
Yeah.
It was more of celebration for the milestone of raising money, not necessarily celebrating for what you're doing with said capital and growing the business. So in my opinion, forcing constraints upon yourself as an individual entrepreneurship and amongst your team is the best leading indicator for success. Meaning if capital was a constraint for us, we need to bet on what we know is going to work, and we need to fail quickly and or succeed quickly to unlock the next level. What that did was it kind of created this huge sense of ownership across the entire team, where you can map out kind of what does your next milestone work? How does that work? And really it's having kind of the bigger vision and working backwards from that, knowing that you can unlock it. We did take on, you know, a small $250,000 SBA loan, personally guaranteed. And that was kind of the rocket fuel to get us to that next step once we reach kind of product market fit. And so it was kind of a sense of ownership, kind of wearing that badge kind of on our shoulder. And uniquely enough, if we position ourselves here in 2025, and you've kind of seen kind of the tech boom, money kind of go down to zero, fundraising drying up, it's really kind of an expectation today. In order to be a real company, you need to be cash flow positive, you need to be profitable, you need to be growing with, you know, hypergrowth scale. So in a unique way, although it may have been counterintuitive back in the day, it set us up to be stronger than ever today.
I love that you say that, right? Because I mean, I think so many entrepreneurs, because times have changed, right? To your point, you know, back then is different than it is today. The expectation is different in the venture capital world and just the investor world and all of that good stuff. But to your point, bootstrapping and doing what you did forced you to be hyper aware of you know, money spent, right? Of dollars going out versus dollars coming in, where I think maybe a lot of entrepreneurs, unfortunately, that raise capital, it's not their money, right? So they have a tendency to, you know, maybe just to continue to bleed because it's just like not their money, right? It's like, hey, like they're moving so fast that they're not paying attention to every dollar anymore, right? And all of a sudden they're actually developing a bad habit, because when that, you know, OPM dries up, right? They have this bad habit of just spending what they can't afford to actually spend, which isn't how a real company succeeds over the long term.
And panic turns into irrational bets because you're trying to crawl out of a potential hole. Every dollar at HomeStack in the early days, 1 had to turn into 2, 2 had to turn into 4, 4 had to turn into 8. And don't get me wrong, there was tons of sacrifice, tons of compromise across the board. I mean, a funny like origin story that a few people are privy to is, you know, how we bootstrapped the company. We kind of found a hack in regards to provide food to the internal team.
Okay.
And back in the day, Chick-fil-A, I don't know if you've been,
Oh, yeah.
they have a first 100 customers. If you go to a new location, you got free Chick-fil-A for a full year.
Wow.
And so
I didn't know that.
My co-founder and I were like, wait a minute. We need lodging. We need to eat. We need money to go to product. Let's just camp out of Chick-fil-A overnight, get free Chick-fil-A for a full year.
Wow.
And that was kind of like a huge little boost for our, personal pocket. Yeah. And I have like a funny little trinket kind of on my desk. It's a little Chick-fil-A cow that says eat more chicken.
Wow.
Just to always remind myself, center, never forget where you came from.
That is really cool. I didn't even know that they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is fascinating. All right. So tell me, when was it where you remember waking up and saying, like, we're past the point in which, like, it's not going to work, right? Like, when was that moment where you're like, okay, we're big enough now to where it's gonna work, right? Like, it's not going to fail now. Was there a moment in time?
Candidly, and like I want to be extremely humble with what I'm about to say. Yeah. It was day zero.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where I operate under like the methodology of team, strategy, execute. Mm-hmm. And I think building a good team with a good mindset that has like longevity and always has kind of skin in the game and kind of like a pursuit to success, like it will kind of always work. I think like more tangibly to the question, what you're looking for is kind of inertia.
Sure.
Inertia is a heck of a drug out there. You're looking for energy, and really kind of where you start to receive, internal praise, client satisfaction scores, the referral side of things, growing out from brokerage to brokerage, and then being able to start to pivot kind of our lead funnel where it was 100% outbound, the hardest way possible, to really being a blend of, say, 50% inbound, 50% outbound was a huge indicator, to the point where our digital storefront, the keywords, the search, the traffic, the leads, self-provisioning customers really started to kind of boost us with a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I think that, a lot of founders, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, they just believe in it day one. It's almost that, like, there's that old saying, right? In order to be successful, you have to be crazy enough to think that you can, pretty much, right? Like, I don't know exactly how the saying goes, but I'm sure you've heard of it, right? It's like the most successful people in the world are the ones that were crazy enough to believe that they could. Like, where a lot of people just don't believe. They don't believe that they could.
I think there's a quote out there, and it's, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
And so mindset is so powerful for each individual person. And I think from day one, that was kind of always the mindset.
Sure.
I do think that there is this opportunity cost that everybody in the world always struggles with. And that's, am I focusing on the right thing at the right time? Are my energies and passions pushing the personal, needle on serving humanity, serving the team, making the right decision? So I think that question will always possess itself, is how am I using my time? My time is the scarce resource, 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week. What can I do today to continue to, improve my mission, my vision, as a goal?
Yeah, totally. 86,400 seconds in a day, right? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about HomeStack again. So walk me through, if somebody's still watching, right? And they're an agent, okay? And they maybe don't understand quite yet what HomeStack is and how it can serve them. Walk me through, like, if somebody's out there, who is this for? If a solo agent is watching and they hang their hat with a big brokerage, like an EXP or a Real or an LPT or whatever the case may be, right? Heck, Keller Williams, what is HomeStack to them, and how can they integrate it into their business? Yeah,
so kind of our differentiation strategy is leaning into white labeling technology.
Okay.
And what white labeling means is personally branding, developing, distributing, essentially being the silent assassin, putting you front and center with the spotlight on you and your brand.
Yep.
And so we work with individual agents, We work with high performing teams. We work with large enterprises. And I would say like our sweet spot and like our avatar are those agents that do want to invest in themselves, invest in their brand, something that will never go away and will always kind of compound and provide kind of rewards. So what HomeStack really does is we provide kind of that mobile app experience. What we're betting on is mobile will be the operating system for smart and strategic real estate agents into the future.
Sure.
Personally branded, developed how you want in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Now, once it's available, individuals can download it directly from the App Store. It's very shareable. You can create ads. It's your primary call to action, whether it's on your digital, marketing, your print marketing, and so forth.
Yeah.
So anybody who downloads the application, you pull a lot of unique insights. Full name, verified phone number, email, home searching behavior. We have a robust back-end dashboard that works on mobile, also on desktop, to really kind of help kind of streamline the search experience.
Yeah.
And building one application, it's relatively easy, in my opinion. It can be extremely costly. I think where the value at HomeStack really kind of lies is it's kind of like the iceberg analogy. What you see up top is kind of the front end user experience. It's the zigging, it's the zagging, it's the pinching, it's the zooming, it's the clicks. But underneath the water, we've built what I like to call our software factory. And that's something extremely scalable where we can build, develop, distribute, maintain, provide updates, continuously scale that stack of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of applications, which then becomes extremely cumbersome.
Sure.
So essentially, we're your tech team.
Yep.
We make you look amazing at a very low cost with no risk and no engineering expertise on your end to deliver a world-class portal-like experience.
So let's just say hypothetically, I was a solo agent, okay? And I was Austin Zaback, right? But I'm a solo agent. I'm out there just slinging deals. I'm doing 30, 40, 50 deals a year. And I come to you and I say, hey, I really want an app, right? What would I, do I get to name my own app? How does it look in the actual app store? What would somebody like me, what would a solo agent name an app? What would that look like?
Yeah, so I think real estate's such a unique sport because people play it differently.
Sure.
Yet individuals can succeed taking different paths. I think one of the things that we've done here at HomeStack is we kind of have like our own like individual personas, and we call individuals who just farm a specific area.
Yeah.
We call those Farmer Johns. We've got individuals who do super luxe, penthouse type of, north of $5 million listings. And that's, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Sure.
We have individuals who focus on leads and operate with systems. Those are our cyber ninjas. So I think for us, it's identifying what type of agent you are and how you succeed. If you're Austin Zaback and you do 30 to 50, listings, you're a solo agent. The first thing that I would ask is like, what are your goals? Is it to strengthen your relationship with your current book of business? Is it to generate more leads? Is it to grow and recruit and expand a team and go from a solo agent to 3? Because I think our technology really kind of fits that gap more and more depending on what your needs are. And so the process is pretty straightforward. We take a very complex and expensive thing and conduct it in a very fun and reasonable manner. When it comes to branding it, you can brand it however you want, as long as the app name is available. Once the app name is taken, one cannot have that app name.
Right.
When it comes to kind of the designs, we have an awesome implementation and activations team that walks you through the entire wireframe process. And we take, a long period of time into just a 30-minute review. You can name it, you can brand it, you can create your color schemes, your own font. Again, when it comes to white labeling, it's you at the forefront. We're just the silent assassin on the back end, making sure that the magic goes. All in all, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to build, develop, distribute, and make sure that this application is live to then power throughout the entire world.
Pretty cool. What would be, you say, your number one type of like avatar of a customer? Is it team leaders? Is it small team leaders, big team leaders, solo agents, independent brokers? Do you have kind of like an avatar that tends to kind of gravitate towards you guys, or would you say it's just everybody?
Our sweet spot is high performing team leads.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
so what I am pretty much.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And I would say,
why is that?
For a few reasons. One, I'd say when it comes to real estate technology, adoption can be relatively low. If you look at kind of like the enterprise side,
sure,
30% adoption is really, really strong.
Which is crazy. Absolutely
wild and bonkers. Teams operate like brokerages,
right,
but with a methodical approach and a intense focus on workflow. Mm-hmm. And if you aren't using it, you're not in the club type situation.
That's the truth.
And so what we've learned is teams tend to operate where workflow is the most important, operate within a CRM, make sure everything integrates, and make sure communication is very, very tight among all the members. And so what we've realized is like leadership of a team gets it. They're looking to scale, they're looking to differentiate, they're looking to compete against all of those others in the marketplace, whether you are a bigger brand or an individual agent. And they're looking to distribute valuable tools and tech to make sure everything continues to rise to the top in regards to team performance.
Yeah. What do you think, in your opinion, just out of curiosity, the biggest thing that teams struggle with today, like big teams or even medium-sized or small teams? Like what do team leaders, aka people like me, from your point of view, what do we struggle with?
We're privy to a lot of data, and every market has a market,
sure,
and every team operates differently. I'd say the biggest thing is delegation.
Really,
team leads have become celebrities within the space per se. I would say real estate is a superstar driven sport.
Yeah.
And using kind of like an NBA analogy, it's if LeBron James was to leave a specific team, they immediately become a championship contender. And I feel that's very, very much true within kind of the real estate world as well. And so what we've learned kind of early on is as teams continue to grow, recruit, and scale, they do not empower their teammates. They expect them to be rainmakers just like them. And they tend to show up at every single listing presentation, and they tend to overwork themselves. And they think, if my production is 25 million, and if I can add 4 more other individuals, that's linear correlation to 100 million. And we know that that's not the case. No. So it's, I think, placing more of an emphasis on who you recruit, why you recruit them, how you fit them into your culture, knowing that culture evolves when you change from 1 to 4 to 40 over time, and making sure that adapts. But I would say delegation is the number one thing in which they struggle with.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it really is. I can relate to that. Let's talk about like the real estate industry as a whole, right? Like the future of the real estate industry, the future of the real estate agent. There's a lot of people out there that are like, the real estate agent is going to be replaced by robots in 2028, right? Like, and the robot's going to show you your home. What do you realistically think in the real estate industry, AI and the Tesla, right, and Elon making the robots and everything like that, like how does that affect our industry in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of in this hysteria period. With that being said, I mean, AI is very real, very impactful, and every single day that goes by, it compounds, it gets stronger and stronger. I think if you kind of rewind the clock, even just a year ago, we weren't able to do things that we're able to do today.
Yeah.
My big bet, we kind of talked about kind of the evolution of the eras of real estate, where it went from analog to digital. I think the next kind of 3.0, in which we're very well kind of establishing and kind of putting our flag in the ground, is going to be kind of the age of hyper-personalization. And in my opinion, right now we're kind of living in a world where data can be a weapon for you. Data can be a weapon against you, and I think we've seen that. I'm betting more on data being a weapon for you. And in a world in which search currently looks like ones and zeros, beds and baths, all of the listing DNA, when you set up kind of the filters, it's location, single family, 3 beds, 2 baths, draw on a map here. I think all of that changes. And we are evolving into a world somewhat with a smart prompt. Describe your dream life. And any form of data that can flow into that will kind of dictate that output. You mentioned something pretty interesting, like with Elon and kind of what all of this is going on. I read something the other day, Perplexity, which is an open source kind of AI model in which we do some building on, the founder said, on any given day, humans make 35,000 decisions. 35,000 decisions. And I think about that, and I think that's like a neat way of kind of looking at what this TAM is.
Right.
If 7 billion, 8 billion people are making 35,000 decisions, how can we create ways with an AI assistant to make half of those decisions on our behalf that may not be consequential and or can be automated, not to reduce our decisions to 17.5, it's to really focus our 35,000 decisions on something more creative, love, empathy, value driven. And I think we're just going to see tons of efficiencies that come from this.
Yeah, I think I agree. Do you think, though, that real estate agents are going to, like, does the amount of real estate agents over the next 10 years go down or go up or stay the same?
We've seen this before. Every market that goes up into the right, you start to see real estate agent growth. Every market where it stalls out, things become challenging, interest rates go up, inventory goes down, you start to kind of see this washout factor. I'd say over the course of the next 3 years, you're going to continuously see more agents leave the business.
Yeah.
However, at the end of the day, the best of the best will be able to kind of rise to the top. What does this technology mean for agents? I think it really just means more time to do what you do best. And that's be client facing. You don't necessarily have to be the hyper local expert, because so much of the value of the technology, and this is kind of like my big bet on kind of every agent will have an AI agent working as a sidekick within their mobile application into the future. And when consumers want information on a particular area, let's say they find a listing, it's tell me about, I know that you love coffee shops. I know that you do yoga 3 times a week. I know that you have a dog. Here is the best recommendation for this type of lifestyle.
Right.
And any sort of things that became tribal knowledge and value add for real estate agents where they became a local expert because they had to live there for 10, 15, 20 years to know all of this stuff, immediately goes away overnight. I kind of look at the story of like, what does AI look like into the future? I tend to look backwards to see kind of where things have changed amongst kind of our peers. And like the perfect example would be like my grandfather in India, like he was in the army, literacy, reading could have been an issue.
Right.
Then you look at our parents, my dad was a doctor. He takes a photo in front of his bookshelf and he's proud of all of the books that are right behind him because knowledge was the scarce resource. Fast forward to the future, data is going to be invisible. Knowledge is going to be like breathing. And it's what do people do as this knowledge becomes a commodity and abundant to drive value, be creative, and so forth. So I think anything when it comes to knowledge, learning, that's going to be completely commoditized. It's going to even the playing field. And we aren't even going to have to worry about that because the technology is going to work and be perfect. So I'm like on the bull case. I'm very, very optimistic on where this is going. I am not on like the downside of, robots are going to take over the world.
Sure.
I am legend.
Have you seen where they ask Elon, they're like, what are the odds of like it going bad pretty much? You know what I mean? Like where robots like kill us all. And he'll sit there and he'll think about it. He's like, it's like 80%, 80-20. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he says 80-20. It might be 90-10. But I think he said 80-20. And it's interesting, right? He's like, meaning 20% chance like robots kill us all. 80% chance it works out incredible, right? But it's funny to hear Elon talk about that,
Which is insane odds. Right. I mean, if I say 20% of anything, I mean that's there's a big pendulum swing on that. Again, I think I do take more of the optimistic route on how this can empower individuals, give people access to things that they never had before. But that is a staggering number.
Yeah, it is. Let's talk a little bit about the consolidation in the industry as a whole, right? Yeah. We see Rocket Mortgage just came out. They acquired Redfin. They acquired Mr. Cooper, which
huge
is
moves.
Pretty unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about, I think, the largest servicer in the nation, Mr. Cooper. Redfin, obviously, a massive company. Zillow, of course, they're bringing, they're doing ZHL, you got Zillow Home Loans, you got, and so all these massive companies are consolidating. You talked a little while ago about the industry being fragmented. What do you see the future of that aspect of the industry look like in terms of the continued consolidation? How does that affect or change the industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's no surprise that chess pieces are being moved as we speak. I think really there's kind of two main players right now on both ends of the spectrum. And you kind of have the portals, and you've got the Zillows of the world who've slowly been working their way into the brokerage space, purchasing tech companies, fulfilling leads, really focusing kind of on their home loans program in regards to owning the entire transaction.
Right. That's what they want to do.
Then you kind of have the other side where you have, Compass essentially playing, Miss Pac-Man across the United States, using VC money to acquire brokerages, using agents as leverage, using agents in terms of volume. And then you kind of have this like middle, which a ton of very smart, successful, hyper-productive real estate agents live, whether it's high-performing independent boutique brokerages, high-performing teams, individual agents who are making a good living. Very interesting things are taking place right now in regards to CCP, delayed marketing listings, that it's funny, as you mentioned, kind of like, what's my bet on the future? It seems like everything that's taking place right now is actually going in the reverse direction, going back to more of that analog era. And so, my big bet, BHHS is going to get acquired.
Right.
I could see they're going to de-risk, and that may be a beneficial brokerage that someone may want to take on that scale. But I do think the path to profitability on an agent or on a brokerage level is going down to close to zero due to recruiting agents.
Yep.
And they're looking for ways to make money on more of the ancillary services, whether it's title, home warranty, escrow, and so forth. And really vertically integrating, that's where these big moves with Redfin and Mr. Cooper and Rocket are really living.
I think even with teams of my size and even smaller, right? I mean, look at, all of the ancillary that we do. I mean, we have, we own a title company.
Smart.
We own a mortgage company.
Smart.
We obviously have, all the relationships with the Zillows and all the big lead platforms and the B2B relationships, a lot of them. So we have an insurance company, right? So we're referring our own insurance company. We have an entire vendor kind of, essentially a vendor Rolodex, I guess you could call it, that we are plugging our agents' clients, right? Because as a team leader, you kind of have two clients in a way. You have your agents. You want to make your agents happy, but you also want to help the agent help their client, right? And so in a sense, team leader kind of has two responsibilities there, I think. But even to go back to kind of what I was saying is like, look at how much vertically integrated streams of income even a team has to have to be actually profitable, to continue to provide what agents are demanding in 2025 and beyond.
And there's tons of laws and regulations across the United States. Not everyone can do that across the US, but at the end of the day, the analogy that I like to create is like the agent is the star in the solar, or the sun in the solar system. Everything kind of evolves around that. But what a lot of individuals may or may not know is there is a lot of money that comes from that singular transaction that needs to take place. And how do we grow? How do we scale? How do we de-risk? How do we diversify? It's being able to control, maintain, and be able to extract all of that value. We talk to like a lot of team leads who actually do use like a Zillow Flex or a Zillow Premier. And one of the things that we found is if you do pay for a lead, you convert that lead, you're essentially breaking even if you only work with that individual just that one time.
Yeah, you are.
And over the course of the next 3, 4, 7 years, when they sell again, you're playing the long game. You're purchasing that lead, and you need to create a safe ecosystem where you can foster that relationship and make sure that you transact with them again and again and again. And that's where the value is. So I think right now we're at a really, really unique time where more individuals, more enterprises are vertically integrating, but the space still has so many inefficiencies that if you can own that customer relationship for life, that's going to determine who is a winner versus who is just kind of, in neutral.
What do you think the Zillows of the world, what's their goal? With everything that they're doing, right? Like you see, ZHL, Flex, blah, 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 right? Like, do they eventually want to do what like Redfin was doing at one point? Like, do they want agents in-house? Like, what do you think, based on you being kind of a tech founder, if you were to go in the mind of, the owner of Zillow or some of the co-founders, what do you think the big vision is there for them?
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And Rich Barton, kind of being one of the co-founders, like his story, looking at how he started other companies like Expedia, where he wanted to disintermediate the travel agent and provide transparency for travel for consumers to go directly to their platform to make that magic happen. He started Glassdoor to provide transparency for individuals who wanted to identify maybe pay wages that used to be taboo per se, and figure out how much should I be paid if I'm in this specific role with this company. And then he started Zillow. If you're kind of following if you're picking up and kind of reading the tea leaves, what is he trying to do? He's trying to accelerate the conversion of consumers on a transparent platform.
Right.
The challenge here is one, NAR and real estate in general, tons of lobbyists. It's very, very hard to get through that. But two, the likelihood of individuals transacting a home, I mean, as we know, this is the single most impactful financial decision that the broad majority of individuals do, that you want to work with kind of a specialist. I took a look at the data, and compared to kind of the late 90s, early 2000s versus now, more individuals are working with a real estate agent today than they ever have before.
It's crazy.
Which I think shines a bright light, say, at the portals like Zillow. It's agents are very integral to this entire value exchange, and they're not going away anytime soon. So what is Zillow trying to do? Let's bring on the best tools. Let's bring on the best tech. Let's treat agents maybe like Uber, and let's score them who is following up with the leads. What is your speed to lead? Who is converting? I will scratch your back if you're scratching mine. And I think they're very much leaning into an agent first model. Whereas I think day one, it might have been, how do we replace agents?
Yeah, I agree. No, I totally agree. I think that they ran into some roadblocks with that initial goal. And then they had to kind of pivot into like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to like fully do that, right? Because nobody wants to work with, if you're a savvy American in any way, shape, or form, you don't necessarily want to work with some W-2 agent who just is getting paid $18 an hour to unlock the door for you. Because you're like, there's no value in that. It's like, okay. Like, you see what I'm saying? You want an agent who's going to advise you, an agent who's going to negotiate for you, an agent who's going to go to bat for you, an agent who's going to make sure that all the additional terms that are in the contract that need to be in there to prevent or allow X, Y, and Z to negotiate the furniture and the separate bill of sale. I mean, the list just goes on of what a W-2 $18 an hour agent's not going to be able to do for you.
And that's the thing about the space that's very, very interesting. The barrier to entry is relatively low.
Right.
The barrier to succeed is extremely high.
Right.
And to me, everything is earned and not given. There are kind of the hobbyists. There's obviously the enthusiast. Everybody knows somebody who is a real estate agent. You then need to make the best fiduciary decision on your end with who do you want to put that control into. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Man, it's interesting. We'll have to see how it all plays out. So I'm curious, without getting like super political, what do you think the next 3, 4, 5 years look like in the housing market in general, right? Like looking at the data, looking at interest rates, obviously, from 2022 to 5. I mean, we've been, now historically, we're not that high. If we look back, if we just go zoom out a little bit, historically 7% or wherever we're sitting right this second is actually fairly average, right? When you look all the way back, my grandpa and grandma were at a 19% mortgage, I think, when they bought their home, So We're seeing, though, a lot of the data has come out over the last, several months that we're seeing kind of back-to-back lowest transaction volume since basically like 1995.
Yep.
In a lot of these months. What do you think, in your kind of on all the data you're looking at, where are we going from here?
So one, I think kind of the industry itself, it's been frozen over the course of the last 2 years.
Because of COVID, because of the super low interest rates, everybody got locked in it too. Like, why?
You nailed it. A massive glow up in the space, free money.
Yeah.
And one of the things is it's slowly thawing out. And I think that there's a shock factor. Everybody's looking at these charts and everything is rising up into the right.
Yep.
The big thing here is, you brought up the good point. It's kind of the golden handcuff. Individual locked in on a 2.7, 2.8, 3.1% interest rate. I have this for 30 years. I am printing money right now.
Literally.
Why in the heck would I ever sell this property?
Yep.
Problem there. 2, interest rates start to rise and there is a shock factor. 5 years ago, it looked like this. Today, it looks like this. The sky is falling. Zoom out. I think my parents' first property that they purchased was a 15% mortgage. So in the grand scheme of things, very, very healthy, in my opinion, the interest rate that it is today, but there still is a shock factor with people who are getting comfortable with that. The biggest problem, it's really just supply versus demand and affordability.
Right.
It's what was affordable 5-6 years ago is no longer affordable or attainable today. And when you start to look at certain markets, we'll use, I think this market per se, maybe about a year ago, there was maybe 6,000 to 9,000 units. And then today there's about 21,000. So like inventory's up. If you look at Austin, prices have decreased by 22% year over year. Florida is being challenged right now with a lot of insurance and additional costs that factor into affordability. And so I think every market has a market. Looking at kind of the macro, we're on pace for about 4 to 4.5 million units, which is down from the super surge of 6 to 6.5 million units during kind of the COVID boom. Now, as we know, it's very healthy when there's tons of deal flow in our space. More deals result into more commissions generate into more capital for technology, lead gen, and so forth. But at the end of the day, I think what we're noticing is this kind of lockup factor that I think is slowly thawing out. Eventually, there is a breaking point.
Right.
And eventually, people do understand this is kind of the new normal. 7% is totally reasonable. And I will want to make a move and either upgrade my lifestyle. I now have kids. And so I think it really just is being patient and understanding like the time the dam will break, it will open up, it will be more free flowing. We're just kind of here, kind of in the seventh inning.
And I think Jerome Powell's going to lower rates any day now, right? We'll see. I mean, we'll there's an FOMC meeting actually in like an hour from now. So we'll see what he said. But basically, the consensus today is that there will be no rate cut.
Correct.
But obviously, June, July, we've got 2 more FOMC meetings, one in June, one in July. I personally think in one of those, we're going to see a small cut. And then they're going to, I think today he's going to position the tonality a little bit differently, right? That they're going to go from, quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. Like the kind of tone should shift today. So I don't know if you'll be paying attention to the markets, but I certainly will.
Yeah. No, I mean, lower interest rates are healthy for our market. I don't think it needs to depend on that, but it is just a psychological factor and it will ease up affordability. And I think it solves one of the core problems.
So I have a couple more things about HomeStack and then we'll wrap up. So one of your themes in 2025 is, do you believe in magic? Tell me about that. What does that mean? Where did that mantra come from?
Yeah. So, kind of the story. I mean, growing up, my Uncle Bill during the holidays, he would always perform magic tricks for me. And he wasn't a magician by trade. But it was always something that like opened my eyes. And it was one of those things that I said, how the heck did that happen? That was cool. And a silly trick that he would do is he'd rub a quarter on his elbow. He'd pull it from behind my ear. I'd then get the quarter. And maybe as a kid, it was like, I love capitalism. I just made money. This is a money machine. This is cool. Do that trick again. I get more quarters. But there was a feeling that I always left with how did that happen? And that made me feel good. And so one of the themes that we have here at HomeStack is, do you believe in magic? And I think it was Brian Chesky at Airbnb kind of created this idea of creating a 12-star experience in a 10-star world. And really the thesis was, in a brainstorming event, it's, well, what does a 5-star experience look like? You know, for the Austin Zaback show, Space RE.
Right.
And it's doing the minimum viable expected outcome. And for like Airbnb, it's like being able to, rent a place to live.
Sure.
And what does a 6-star experience look like? Well, if I know that Austin is renting this place and he likes to surf, maybe I'll put a surfboard in there. What does a 7-star experience look like? Well, if Austin likes to, if he's fit and he likes to surf, let's make sure that there's a bicycle there for his surfboard. And you kind of work your way up to the unimaginable of like, what does a 12-star experience look like? And it's like, well, in our conversations with Elon and robots, it's let's just make sure that there's a private jet and we go down to Starbase in Texas and we take one of the Falcon Heavy rockets into orbit and we kind of see the world. So you kind of brainstorm and really look at what is the unthinkable while doing such an experiment. Like while doing such an experiment, you end up reimagining things that you didn't think were possible, putting you in a much better like position than you were here today. And so at HomeStack, that's kind of like the mantra where you see it kind of on, in our Slack, you see it kind of printed everywhere. It's, do you believe in magic? And whether you're on the sales team, whether you're on tech, whether you're with product, whether you're with marketing, whether you're with activation, how can you add a additional star to what you do today to make people walk away and say, that was amazing?
Yeah, I love that. How many total employees are you at now?
Yeah, we're at 15 full-time employees, 25 if you include contractors over the seas.
Wow.
So small but mighty company, doing more with less.
I love that. Yeah. What does your day look like now as the CEO of the company?
Yeah, so in the morning, I mean, very, very loose regimen. I'm not your guy who like wakes up at 5 and, cold plunges and so forth. But I mean, it's clean out the inbox in the morning, stack all of my meetings with dev from about 8 to 11 a.m. I try to clear my afternoon schedule just to work on projects. I tend to get my best kind of thinking done kind of in the evening when the rest of the world kind of quiets and so forth. So, I mean, I still am very much involved with a lot of our enterprise contracts. I manage our entire technical team. We still are small enough where I am doing, interviews and final interviews, bringing on every single team member. I think that's super important. And making sure that I'm an outlet. I mean, this is very much kind of a glass door policy where I want to make myself available. I have fun working with our team. I mean, something about, working with good people on the similar mission gives me a thrill. So, I mean, I still do have my hands full, whether it's with client success, seeing accounts grow, product, tech, partnerships, conferences, and so forth. So still wearing all the hats.
Pretty cool. Yeah. But at some point you'll continue to delegate and continue to scale from there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was the biggest setback that you had to get to where you are today?
Biggest setback, I would say that there's a few. One kind of in the early days, co-founder and I, who started the company together, he decided to take on a different kind of pursuit and passion. And phenomenal entrepreneur. Best friend at the time, still is my best friend. He officiated my wedding 6 months ago.
Wow.
But I think it was kind of getting over the early days of, dealing with unexpected type of like co-founder breakup per se. He still is a member of our board. He still is a valuable contributor to our early success and our ongoing success. But I would say that was like probably one of the bigger setbacks.
What did he just woke up one day and decided he wanted to pursue something completely different? I mean,
bigger. His passion, very religious individual, and he started pray.com, which is the #1 digital faith platform out there.
Wow.
So I think you kind of chase your heart. Life is short, and every single day you need to make sure that you're kind of filling your jar while looking at others.
Wow.
And like I said, phenomenal entrepreneur. But when you are kind of in that growing phase, everything is so delicate. It is an ecosystem where the company is a baby, and it does take kind of at the time joint ownership. But I am so proud of our entire team. I mean, from Robert to Clark to Evie to every single team member, Neil and so forth, just being able to kind of rise up, deal with that next man up type of mentality, and make sure that the vision still remains strong and we continuously grow.
Yeah, and you're continuously growing, in fact, right?
Absolutely.
Going to get to minimum 300,000 agents on the platform.
That's the scoreboard.
Potentially 1.5 million.
That's the TAM.
We talked about that a little while ago, and I believe 100% you're going to get there. Any particular time frame in which you hope to achieve that?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years. You're in a similar time frame as us. 2 to 3 years, we're going to be we're already probably the largest team in the country, but we want to be like so large it's unbelievable. 10,000 transactions a year.
It's an honor to be right by your side, powering the tech and seeing the team continuously grow.
Well, I can't wait to partner with you guys even more on more stuff. I know that I talked to Keith, had a good conversation with him this morning about some of his different goals and what we can do together with HomeStack. And, with that being said, this is a great podcast. I appreciate you coming on, Will.
I had a blast.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Agents, team leaders, independent brokers? How do people get a hold of you, your team, if they want to work with you in any type of way?
Yeah, homestack.com, homestack.ai. That's where you kind of find the company. Me personally, you can find me on my handles at Will Grewal, Instagram, LinkedIn, X. One of my favorite platforms.
Awesome. And I'll leave all that information down in the description below. Thank you again for coming on. If you're still watching on Spotify podcasts or any other platform like that, leave a 5-star review if you haven't already. It would mean the world to me, and it'll help us get more information like this out to you guys. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.